The Civic Node, Dispatch Number 2. The Strait is the mandate. This piece is about a rate decision nobody voted on. In April 2026, American gasoline prices rose 37% in 5 weeks. The cause was geography, a 21-mile waterway in the Persian Gulf. The committee that holds the price stability mandate had no instrument for any of it. The Federal Reserve's dual mandate covers maximum employment and price stability. Every tool it has, the federal funds rate, open market operations, forward guidance, is calibrated for one thing: managing demand. In April 2026, prices were moving because of geography. A 21-mile waterway, controlled by a country the United States has been at war with since February 28th. The Fed held the mandate, Iran held the lever. 3 numbers tell the story. First, U.S. gasoline up 37% in 5 weeks. The supply route for about 20% of the world's oil became functionally closed. Second, Hormuz traffic at roughly 5% of pre-war volume, 80 vessels a week, down from 130 plus per day. The IMO Secretary General's assessment: there is no safe transit anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz. Third, FOMC votes cast, 0. No emergency meeting, no vote, no instrument. The committee that legally holds the price stability mandate had no lever for this particular price move. Brent crude crossed $100 a barrel on April 22nd, after the IRGC fired on 3 ships and seized 2. That's the upstream event. Downstream is the pump. U.S. inflation is at 3.3%, 130 basis points above the 2% target. The federal funds rate has been parked at 3.5 to 3.75% for months. The Fed's instrument is calibrated for demand pull inflation. A closed shipping lane is a different class of problem. Rate policy can't reopen a waterway. Wall Street asks whether the Fed will cut rates. Here's a sharper frame. What class of inflation is actually running, and does the Fed's instrument address it? 1 committee, 1 rate-setting lever, 3 distinct classes of inflation. Only the first is what the lever was built for. Let's walk through each class. The first is demand pull. Too much money chasing too few goods. The federal funds rate was built for this. The Fed slows the economy, demand cools, prices stabilize. That's the mechanism. It works. The second is tariff shock. The U.S. effective tariff rate sits at 19.7%, the highest since 1933, above Smoot-Hawley on a post-substitution basis. Created by executive action, can be removed by executive action. The president who made this inflation can end it with a signature. The Fed can't. The third is choke point shock. Iran charges up to $2 million per ship for passage through Hormuz. Those fees are denominated in Chinese yuan and stablecoins, explicitly off dollar. The Strait is both a choke point and a persistent de-dollarization vector for oil-linked trade. The FOMC doesn't set the rate for the yuan and has no jurisdiction over those transactions. The Fed is downstream, the Strait is upstream. The 1973 OPEC embargo is the textbook supply shock. OPEC cut output, oil spiked roughly 400%, and the stagflation era arrived. Paul Volcker's response a decade later took the federal funds rate to about 22% in mid-1981. That broke inflation expectations and crushed demand into the 1981 through 82 recession. It didn't break the oil shock. Oil fell in the early 1980s for separate reasons: new supply, demand destruction, OPEC discipline breaking down. Volcker won the demand battle. The supply problem resolved on its own. Nobody's doing 22% rates against the Strait of Hormuz. Even if they were, 22% rates don't reopen a shipping lane. The 2026 problem: 2 concurrent supply shocks with different political origins and different resolution paths. Jerome Powell said it plainly in 2025 about a different supply shock with the same structure. Essentially, all inflation forecasts for the United States went up materially as a consequence of the tariffs. He was talking about import taxes. Substitute strait closure for tariffs and the sentence holds. The Fed can wait and hold. It can absorb the political pressure of doing both. What it can't do is change the physical reality of a closed waterway by adjusting the cost of overnight lending. Powell understood the structural problem. Whether his successor says so publicly is the open question. Kevin Warsh is about to walk into this. His confirmation process built in the constraints before he showed up. He spent the entire process declining to engage publicly with the two biggest inflation drivers facing the Fed. He argued tariffs won't cause inflation to spike. That's Trump's line. He took no stance on the Powell DOJ probe. The Senate Banking Committee voted 13-11 to advance him, the first fully partisan committee vote on a Fed chair nominee in committee history. He holds one of 12 FOMC votes. The committee that voted 11-1 to hold in March will still be the committee. He chairs it, he doesn't dictate it. Here's the tell, his first FOMC statement as chair. Read it for what's missing. If it names tariffs and the Strait as binding constraints, he's describing the environment honestly. If it doesn't, if you read through and neither word appears, the absence is the signal. The chair just told you what kind of chair he is. American consumer prices in May 2026 are being set by three institutions: the Federal Reserve, the executive branch through tariffs, and Iran through a choke point. Only the Fed is structured for political independence. The other two are explicitly political. Iran's $2 million transit fee, paid in yuan and stablecoins, runs regardless of what the FOMC decides. So does the 19.7% tariff rate. The Fed's tools are built for one class of problem. May 2026 delivered two others on top. All primary sources are linked in the piece at drinkyouroj.substack.com. Check them if you think I've got it wrong.